What if the greatest strength you possess as a woman isn't found in the volume of your voice, but in the quiet spaces where your spirit gathers itself to soar? In a world that bombards women with noise, expectations to please, judgments to endure, the relentless hum of survival, the ancient wisdom of Buddhist philosophy offers a revolutionary gift: the power of silence. This isn't about fading into the background or bowing to defeat. It's about embracing stillness as a sanctuary, a shield, and a spark that ignites resilience and purpose. For women who've long navigated a society bent on muffling their truths, silence becomes a radical act of reclamation, a way to heal, to stand firm, and to rewrite their stories with unshakable grace. Through the lens of real lives and timeless struggles, let's explore 10 moments where silence transforms from a whisper into a force, lifting women from the weight of oppression into the light of empowerment. Picture Maria, a single mother in Chicago, her days a whirlwind of sound and strain. The clatter of dishes as she cooks dinner for her two daughters, the drone of machinery at the factory where she clocks 10-hour shifts, the distant wail of sirens piercing her neighborhood, a place where danger lurks around every corner. Life presses down on Maria like a heavy hand, testing her resolve with every unpaid bill, every sleepless night, every small disaster that threatens to unravel her fragile balance. One evening, her youngest, Sophia, knocks over a glass of juice, the sticky liquid pooling across the floor Maria just scrubbed clean. Anger flares hot and fast, a tidal wave begging to crash. She could yell, let the frustration spill out in sharp, cutting words that echo through their cramped apartment. But she doesn't. She closes her eyes, draws a slow breath, and lets silence settle over her like a gentle rain. This pause isn't surrender, it's a choice, a quiet rebellion against the chaos. Buddhist teachings murmur to her that silence in anger is a treasure, a sacred space where she can shield her peace and preserve the trust her daughters place in her. Maria knows that a harsh word now would only widen the cracks in their little world. By choosing stillness, she becomes a rock steadying her family amid the storm, her quiet a testament to a strength deeper than rage. Anger is a companion women know intimately, a fire that smolders beneath layers of unspoken grief and unheeded dreams. It's a flame history has fanned in countless women who turned its heat into light. Consider Sojourner Truth, born Isabella Bonfree in 1797, a woman sculpted by the brutal hands of slavery in New York's Hudson Valley. Her life was a litany of losses, beaten by masters, sold from her parents as a child, her own children ripped away by the slave trade's merciless grip. When she escaped in 1826, clutching her infant daughter Sophia to her chest, the fury could have swallowed her whole. She had every right to scream, to curse the skies that let such cruelty reign. Yet, Sojourner chose silence as her refuge. She bore the lash without a cry, her stillness a fortress where she gathered her strength. Years later, on May 29, 1851, she stood before a crowd at the Women's Rights Convention in Akron, Ohio. The room buzzed with skepticism, men who sneered at a black woman daring to speak, women who doubted her place among them. She could have met their scorn with venom, but she didn't. Her silence had distilled her pain into something sharper, something undeniable. When she finally spoke, her voice rolled out like thunder, "Ain't I a woman?" That question, forged in years of quiet endurance, struck like a hammer splintering the walls of a society built on silencing her kind. Silence in her anger wasn't weakness, it was the crucible where she transformed suffering into a clarion call, a legacy that still shakes the earth. Now imagine Priya, a software engineer in Bangalore, her workplace a labyrinth of ambition and whispered betrayals. She's brilliant, her coded dance of logic and elegance, but brilliance attracts shallows. In the break room, colleagues huddle over steaming chai, their voices low and laced with malice. They dissect her late nights at the office, some call her ruthless, others weave tales of affairs that never happened. One morning, Priya pauses by the coffee machine, catching her name tangled in their web of lies. The sting is sharp, a needle under her skin. She could storm in, confront them, demand they retract their venom. But she doesn't. She turns away, her silence a curtain they can't pierce. Buddhist philosophy teaches that gossip and slander are poisons, tainting both the teller and the told. Priya feels this truth in her bones. By refusing to fuel their fire, she lets the rumors starve, their power fading in her absence. Her quiet strength mirrors that of Malala Yousafzai, a girl from Pakistan's Swat Valley who faced death for daring to read. On October 9, 2012, a Taliban gunman shot her in the head, aiming to silence her forever. From her hospital bed, Malala didn't curse her attackers, she healed in stillness, her silence amplifying her eventual words into a global anthem for girls' education. For Priya, silence isn't retreat, it's a shield, a way to rise above the din and hold her dignity intact in a world eager to shred it. Conflict is a proving ground where silence can shift the winds. Elena, a community organizer in rural Mexico, walks this tightrope every day. She's fighting for land rights in a village where men clutch power like a birthright, their voices booming over dusty meeting halls. One sweltering afternoon, a dispute over water access ignites. Farmers shout, fists slam tables, accusations ricochet like bullets. As the lone woman in the room, Eleanor could raise her voice, match their volume to claim her space. But she doesn't. She sits still, her silence a cool breeze slicing through the heat. Buddhism whispers that conflict springs from clinging to pride, to possessions, to being right. Eleanor's quiet isn't evasion, it's a deliberate pause, a canvas where others can paint their thoughts and see their own folly. Gradually the men soften, drawn into her calm like moths to a flame. This echoes the courage of Lamar Gbowe, who in 2003 led Liberia's women to end a 14-year civil war. Clad in white, they sat silently outside government buildings in Monrovia, their mute presence a plea that drowned out the roar of guns. That silence halted bloodshed, birthing peace where words had crumbled. Eleanor's stillness works the same magic on a smaller stage, proving that quiet can tame chaos and forge bridges where none existed. When pain envelops those around you, silence takes on a holy weight. Sarah, a nurse in New York, carries this burden through fluorescent-lit corridors. She's witnessed every shade of human suffering, babies lost to illness, families fractured by sudden tragedy. One night she sits with Carla, a mother whose teenage son, Miguel, clings to life after a car accident on the Brooklyn-Queens expressway. The room hums with the beep of monitors, but the air is thick with a grief too vast for words. Sarah longs to offer solace, to weave a sentence that might lighten Carla's load. But what could suffice? So she stays silent, her hand a steady anchor on Carla's trembling one. Buddhism's heart of compassion glows here. Silence speaks when language falters, offering presence over empty promises. Sarah's quiet recalls Mother Teresa, who spent decades among Calcutta's dying poor. She didn't sermonize to the sick, she sat with them, her stillness a warm embrace in their final hours. For Sarah, silence isn't distance, it's a lifeline, a way to share Carla's sorrow without cheapening it with clichés. In that sterile room, quiet becomes a communion, a vow that Carla's pain is seen, felt, held. Arguments with the furious test even the steadiest hearts. Aisha, a high school teacher in London, faces this tempest daily in her classroom. Her student Jamal, a lanky 16-year-old with a spark of defiance, erupts over a C- on his history essay. His voice cracks with rage, unfair, stupid, pointless, words tumbling out like a flood breaking a dam. Aisha could match his fury, raise her tone to assert control, remind him who's in charge. But she doesn't. She stands there, her face a calm sea, her silence a mirror reflecting his storm back to him. Buddhism cautions against clashing with anger. It's like tossing fuel on a blaze, watching it devour reason. Aisha's stillness unnerves Jamal. His shouts falter, his breath catches, and he storms out, slamming the door. Hours later, he slinks back, muttering a sheepish sorry. This mirrors Rosa Parks, who on December 1, 1955, sat silently on a Montgomery bus, refusing to yield her seat to a white passenger. Her quiet defiance wasn't meekness, it was a spark that ignited the civil rights movement, forcing a nation to face its own noise. Aisha's silence does the same for Jamal, turning a clash into a lesson, proving that stillness can quell even the wildest tempests and plant seeds for growth. Oversharing lures us in a world wired for connection, and Lynn, a Vietnamese American writer in California, feels its pull. At a literary mixer in Los Angeles, she meets a publisher, a woman whose name graces the spines of bestsellers. Lynn's story churns inside her, fleeing Saigon in 1975 as a child, her mother sewing money into their clothes, her own dream of a novel that captures it all. She could spill it here, hoping to dazzle with her rawness. But she holds back, offering a warm smile and a few measured words about her manuscript. Buddhism warns against the rush to reveal. It risks trust and dilutes the slow bloom of intimacy. Lynn's restraint pays off. The publisher, intrigued by her quiet confidence, asks to see her work. Think of Oprah Winfrey, who didn't broadcast her childhood scars from the outset. She built her empire step by step, her silence in those early years a foundation that made her later revelations seismic. Lynn's quiet isn't shyness, it's strategy, a way to let her craft speak when the moment ripens, preserving her story's power for the page. Complaining beckons when life grinds you down, and Fatima, a factory worker in Detroit, knows its siren call. Her back aches from hefting crates on the assembly line. Her supervisor snaps orders with a sneer. Her paycheck barely stretches to cover rent. Over lukewarm coffee in the break room, she could join her co-workers' chorus of gripes, how the hours drag, how the boss plays favorites. But she doesn't. She works in silence, channeling her energy into small rebellions, like teaching her illiterate colleagues to read during their 15-minute breaks, her voice soft but steady as she sounds outward. Buddhism sees complaints as a drain, siphoning strength from solutions. Fatima's silence mirrors Harriet Tubman's grit. Leading slaves north on the Underground Railroad, Harriet didn't lament the freezing rivers or the baying hounds. She pressed on, her quiet a drumbeat of hope that carried hundreds to freedom. Fatima follows suit, turning exhaustion into empowerment, her stillness a refusal to let hardship define her or dim her light. Uncertainty demands silence when knowledge falters. Jane, a college freshman in Texas, steps into this arena at her first debate club meeting in Austin. The topic is climate change, carbon credits, melting ice caps, rising seas, and the room crackles with confident voices. Jane's new to this, her grasp shaky at best. She could bluff, toss out a vague opinion to fit in. But she doesn't. I'm not sure yet, she admits, her quiet clearing space for others to shine. Buddhism honors this humility. Speaking without understanding muddies the waters of truth. Jane's choice echoes Ada Lovelace, who in the 1840s sat silently among England's mathematicians, soaking up their insights before crafting the world's first computer algorithm. Deep quiet learning birthed a technological dawn. For Jane, silence isn't shame, it's a seedbed, a place where she can root herself and grow into a voice that matters, one grounded in real knowing. Lying tempts when the stakes climb high, and Naomi, a lawyer in Sydney, feels its weight. In a sleek boardroom overlooking the harbour, her client, a developer with deep pockets, leans close, urging her to twist facts in awe and dispute. A few skewed details could clinch the case, and the bonus would fatten her bank account. The lie would be smooth, a quiet bend of truth. But Naomi stays silent, her refusal a wall she won't breach. Buddhism holds truth as a pillar. A single falsehood cracks the foundation of trust forever. Naomi's stand recalls Susan B. Anthony, who in the 19th century suffrage fight never spun tales to sway a crowd. Her silence on easy lies kept her movement's moral spine straight. For Naomi, quiet preserves her soul, a beacon in a profession where truth often bends to power, her integrity a light she refuses to dim. These 10 moments: anger, gossip, conflict, others' pain, heated disputes, oversharing, complaining, uncertainty, lying, cast silence as a woman's unspoken superpower, a thread weaving resilience through the fabric of their lives. From Sojourner's escape in the dead of night to Malala's recovery in a Birmingham hospital, women have wielded stillness to shatter chains and build legacies that echo across time. This isn't about being voiceless, it's about choosing when to speak, letting silence sharpen your edge and amplify your presence. In a society that drowns women in noise, patriarchal demands, cultural scripts, the grind of survival, Buddhist wisdom offers a lifeline, a quiet space to reflect, to heal, to rise. Maria's pause holds her family steady when anger threatens to fracture it. Priya's restraint guards her spirit from the venom of rumors, letting her work shine brighter than words. Eleanor's calm turns a shouting match into a conversation, her silence a bridge across divides. Sarah's presence comforts Scarla's grief, her quiet a hand extended in the dark. Aisha's stillness tames Jamal's fury, planting seeds of respect where conflict once raged. Lynn's reserve opens a door to her dreams, her silence a canvas for her story's future. Fathima's quiet lifts her co-workers up, turning drudgery into defiance. Jane's humility sows the ground for wisdom, her silence a promise of growth. Naomi's refusal keeps her truth intact, her quiet a stand against a world that trades integrity for gain. This power stretches back through history, a lineage of women who found strength in stillness. Hildegard of Bingen, a 12th century German mystic, sat in silence to hear divine melodies, her quiet compositions defying a church that sought to mute her voice. In 1940s Paris, Simone de Beauvoir lingered in CAF, her silence a forge for existential ideas that reshaped how women saw themselves. In 1963, Fannie Lou Hamer endured beatings in a Mississippi jail, her quiet resolve fueling her fight for black voting rights. Today, women like you carry this flame, finding solace and strength in stillness amid the clamor of modern life. deadlines, social media, the pressure to be everything at once. Silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness. It's the breath before a leap, the pause that births courage, the stillness that roars louder than any shout. For women, it's a rebellion against a world that demands they perform, conform, or vanish. It's a space to listen to your heart's whispers, your soul's truths, the quiet power that's always pulsed within you. Think of Maria standing in her kitchen, the gin spooling at her feet. She could have snapped, but she didn't. That silence saved her night, her bond with Sophia, her own peace. Think of Sojourner, her back scarred from whips, her voice stilled until it could thunder. That silence carried her to freedom, then to history. Now think of yourself. When anger bubbles up like streaks, cried if for your worker take, for your worker takes pref for your won't for your worker, or upon per your quiet for your what to, will you me you last, who will you la. These women, Maria, Sojourner, Priya, Eleanor, Sarah, Aisha, Lynn, Fatima, Jane, Naomi, didn't just endure, they thrived, their silence a river carving through stone, shaping lives of meaning from raw struggle. You walk in their footsteps, a lineage of quiet warriors who've turned stillness into a force that breaks chains and builds worlds. In a society that often mistakes women's silence for weakness, Buddhist wisdom reveals its essence, a strength that steadies the heart, sharpens the mind, and lifts the spirit. Step into that silence. Let it cradle you when the world presses too hard. Let it steal you when the noise threatens to drown you. Let it lift you when you're ready to rise. In that quiet, you'll find not just peace but power, a power that's yours by birthright, waiting to unfold. It's the power to pause before you break, to listen before you leap, to heal before you heal others. It's the power to stand tall in a storm, to walk through fire unscathed, to build a life that's yours alone. In silence you'll hear your own voice, clear and strong, ready to shape the world as only you can. So the next time life roars, when anger flares, when words wound, when chaos reigns, will you war back or will you find the courage to be still? In that stillness lies your strength, your freedom, your becoming. Embrace it. It's been yours all along.